Alrighty, so today I'm gonna do the season preview of the Seattle Sounders, and I'm actually gonna finish up the season preview today because after this, I'm gonna do my final season preview of this upcoming season, and that, of course, is Toronto FC. But in this season preview of the Seattle Sounders, well, it feels like after they decided to say goodbye to their legend Nico Ladero, and that they're starting to shred some of the older core pieces with Raul Ruidiaz, who's even though he's still with the team, he's probably not going to play a big part of this team, and this might be his final season as a Seattle Sounders player. It feels like they're making another smooth transition to a new core that they're building that could potentially get them back to being the best in the Western Conference and a team that is going to compete for MLS Cup, which that obviously is not great news. All those teams in the Western Conference because for so long Seattle has dominated this league and especially in the West, and it feels like they're reloaded to go for another MLS Cup run. Now, last season, they got back themselves into the playoff position, and they got back to where they love to finish in the Western Conference, which is second place. Honestly, you probably know it, but when I do my prediction of the Western Conference standings, I'm going to put the Seattle Sounders in second place. I mean, it's almost a given that the Seattle Sounders will always finish second place in the Western Conference. Besides that 1 year when they miss out on the playoffs in 2022, which that seems like a complete outlier to the Sounders' success pretty much for over a decade now. But yeah, they finished second with 14-11-9 record and finished with 53 points. Their last playoff appearance was last year. Their last playoff round wins was also last year. And don't forget, they of course win MLS Cup back in 2016 and 2019, and they're definitely hungry to try to add a third start on their crest. Now, in terms of some of the signings that they made, now normally the Seattle Sounders are always pretty quiet in the winter transfer window. They tend to like to do their business in the summer, but they actually have did some good business, and certainly they made one big signing that they've been chasing throughout the whole offseason and finally got that deal done just a couple of weeks ago, and that of course is signing Pedro de la Vega. I mean, there was a lot of question about this signing, knowing that is it going to go over the line, and then the injury concern that the Sounders had with him being out of long-term injury before, but eventually they did get that signing over the line, and yeah, this is going to be a big signing, and probably another marquee piece in terms of the Sounders machine that we have seen for the past decade or so. They always hit on these marquee kind of signing, and something tells me Pedro de la Vega, don't be surprised he's gonna be a really good player and a marquee pieces for the Sounders team for this upcoming season. But other than that, they added some depth signing. They decided to get Nathan from the San Jose Earthquakes, which, as I said in the season preview of the Quakes, I feel like the Quakes could regret this decision. And the Quakes have always decided to let go of decent pieces to good team, and it turns out to go horribly wrong. And I feel like this is going to be the same. I think Nathan is going to do well with the Seattle Sounders. Yes, he is coming off of a torn ACL injury, but I think he looked really good doing his time with the Quakes. Besides the season-ending injury that he suffered last season, and then another former Quakes player that is a great example of one that got away for the San Jose Earthquakes is Denny Muswowski. So last year, Denny Muswowski had a holdout with RSL because of the contract, and they couldn't get it done. And now he's a Seattle Sounders player, and I think he's going to do very well with them. I mean, he is a very underrated number 9, and definitely a huge upgrade compared to Abear in terms of that number 9 spot. And they also got John Bell from St. Louis City. They're really deep in the defensive line. I mean, their center back depth is probably the best in the league, and it just kind of also makes you wonder, do they maybe need to get rid of one or two of their center back because they're just so deep into that spot, and that I'm pretty sure, despite being that deep, there's going to be some unhappy faces in that center back room that they're not going to get enough playing time, even though they're good enough to play for another team. And then in the draft, they got Kalani Kesarizin in the super draft. Now, in terms of players that's no longer with the team, obviously the biggest one is Nico Ladero. So they say goodbye to their legend. He's now with Orlando City. They also no longer have Abido Sissoko, Ethan Doubleware, who went to DC United, Stefan Cleveland, who went to Austin FC, Andrew Thomas, Abear, Kellen Rowe, who of course retire. And they also say goodbye to Freddie Montero again, which Freddie Montero, he hasn't officially said that he has retired, but I won't be surprised that it is the case. I mean, Father Time has really caught up him to a point where I'm kind of surprised that he didn't join Kellen Rowe in saying that this is it for him and decided to hang up his boots. Now, when you look at their preseason schedule, so far they've been playing mostly Scandinavian team, and they've been playing games that are kind of featuring split squad. So for first one is when they play against TSC Boca, that they play a split squad. The first game against them was a 1-1 draw, and then the other game was a 2-1 win for the Sounders. And then they play against IFK Norkenberg, but they won that one. Almost said that they lost that one. Well, the next two they did lose. They play Odense BK in a split squad as well, and they lost both of them, losing 3-0 in the first one, and then losing 2-1 in the second one. And then they wrapped up in terms of their preseason schedule against the Sacramento Republic that will be playing behind closed door. Now, looking at their first 10 game of the season, and straight off the bat, they got a very marquee kind of matchup, and I already mentioned this before how this is definitely going to be one matchup that will be circling on the calendar of a must-watch TV. They're going to be playing against LAFC, a rematch of last year's Western Conference semifinal. Then they play against Austin FC before they play against the Philadelphia Union on the road. Could be a preview of MLS Cup this year. Then they play against the Colorado Rapids before going on the road to play against San Jose, and then they play against the Galaxy on the road. Then they play at home against Montreal before going on the road to play against FC Dallas. Then they have the Vancouver Whitecaps at home before they play against DC United on the road. So certainly a schedule that is pretty. I wouldn't say it's easy. I mean, there are some tough teams that they have to face, but it's definitely not a difficult schedule, and one that I won't be surprised the Sounders could do well, especially when they do face against some really good team. I mean, the first three games is going to be a good early test because when they have to face the likes of LAFC and the Philadelphia Union on the road, it should be a very interesting test to see how this Seattle Sounders team will play. Now, in terms of the post Leagues Cup, they of course play against Minnesota United, which I already mentioned before in the season preview of Minnesota. It feels like both of these teams can't get enough of playing against each other in the group stage of the Leagues Cup, that they have to play against each other straight away after the Leagues Cup is over. Then they, of course, have the Cascadia Derby against the Portland Timbers. That, of course, is the second meeting. And then they return home to play against Sporting KC before returning home to play against San Jose and returning home to play against the Houston Dynamo. So the Sounders are going to get a free game stretch during the middle of September, and then they go on the road to play against Vancouver and Colorado. And then for decision day, I already mentioned it before. It's kind of weird that we're going to see a Cascadia Derby on decision day. I don't think that has ever happened before, and it could definitely go both ways. It could either be an incredible clash if both of these teams are in playoff contention or play for seeding, or it's going to be a bit of a dull matchup if both of these teams really have nothing to play for heading into that Cascadia Derby. Besides maybe the Cascadia Cup, which is easily one of the most important trophy, certainly between them and the Vancouver White Caps. That is, but yeah, interesting to see the Cascadia Derby being a matchup on decision day. Now, obviously, the strength of this team. When you look at the starting 11, this is probably one of the best starting 11 in the league, and a starting 11 that I would say could rival LAFC in terms of being the best in the Western Conference. I mean, they have so much depth in their back line, and their back line has always been very strong. And don't forget, they have Stefan Fry still kicking there, even though I think this is like his third team season with the Seattle Sounders now. Then you look at the midfield, a lot of depth in that spot too, and then on the attacking end and on the front free end. I mean, getting their new signing Pedro De La Vega, Gordon Morris, and Rodon on the other side. I mean, that is a really scary front free. But that being said, as much as I said that is a very scary front free, my biggest concern for the Seattle Sounders, and this was a problem last season, it's goal scoring and also creativity with a question mark. And it's hard to believe that the Sounders, as good as they were last season, they were not a fun team to watch. I mean, especially near the second half of the season. I mean, when you look at how the Sounders play, they were kind of playing like a team that just kind of do just enough on the defensive end and maybe nick a goal or two there, and then they'll win the game 1-0 and stuff. Now, again, that's probably not entertaining to watch, but if it gets the result, I don't think anybody's gonna complain, especially Sounders fans are not going to complain about that. But obviously, ideally, you want to have a team that looks more threatening on the attacking end. And again, as much as this front three is very scary, I do have question in terms of that number 10 position. And especially, is it going to be Albert Rusnak being there in that number 10 position? I mean, last year, I think he spent most of that time in that position, and he did not look well whatsoever. And I feel like this could be a big judgment year for Albert Rusnak, consider, he played very well during his time with RSL, come to the Seattle Sounders. Um, just not long ago, and he has not lived up to any expectation that he was supposed to be, and show any glimpse of that brilliance that he had during his RSL day and transition into the Seattle Sounders, and that's going to be something that he has to do. Because again, he is supposed to be the talisman, and I would think he's pretty much the direct replacement for Nico Ladero, but he needs to step up in terms of his production and also the goal scoring form as well. Again, as good as this front three is, there's been times where this team has been very lackluster going forward, and that even at times they kind of overthink it and overplay it on the attacking end, and some might could fall onto Brian Schmetzer's shoulder. I mean, as much as Schmetzer is one of the best head coach in the league, some of his tactics is definitely left a lot to desire, and that maybe could be a problem if they don't fix that heading into this season. But that being said, in terms of expectation, I mean, this is the Seattle freaking Sounders. The expectation is going to be high. They have to win a trophy. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's actually been a while since the Seattle Sounders have won a trophy. I mean, they didn't win a trophy last year. They definitely didn't win a trophy in 2022, and I don't think they won a trophy in 2021 as well. I think the last time they won a trophy was back in 2019. And, as much as the Sounders have had a lot of success, I mean, they haven't really won any trophy whatsoever. And there are chances where they could win trophy. I mean, one of the trophy that I'm always surprised the Sounders are never really in for it is the U.S. Open Cup. And this is considering the fact that they were really good in the U.S. Open Cup during their early days. And lately, they pretty much just kind of punt that competition, and maybe that's kind of the reason why. MLS have basically said they're going to pull their plug in terms of fielding their team in the U.S. Open Cup, but also just other trophy. They're never a supporter shield winning team because they've always finished second in the standing, and even in the Leeds Cup last year, it was an absolute disaster of a campaign. And yeah, it's been a long time since they have won a trophy. They definitely want to win one. This fan base want to do so, and actually, really, the only trophy I remember they won was actually probably the most important one, not only to them but also to the league history. And that, of course, is the CONCACAF Champions League. I almost forgot that they won it back in 21. I think that was the year that they did. But other than that, they haven't really won a lot of trophy for a team that has always been known as the team of the decade that has dominated this league. And obviously, the other thing that is an expectation is win MLS Cup. Again, this is always a team when they go to the playoffs. You expect them to go on a deep run, and this is no exception this year. They definitely want to go on a deep run and try to erase what happened last season when they narrowly lost to LAFC at home, which I think that also ended their winning streak in terms of the playoff wins at home. But there you have it. That is pretty much it looking at the Seattle Sounders in terms of this season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. If you're a Sounders fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, and expectation is for this team heading into this upcoming season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys give a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.